Thank you and good morning. I've been asking the question, what does it take to achieve high performance? And one of the observations I have is that in most organizations, we really don't use the human resources we have. That's a pretty obvious statement. I think you'd agree with it. That we probably use 10, 15, 20% of people's potential in terms of what they could do. And think, if you had a piece of machinery that was central to your organization that was only running at 20% effectiveness, wouldn't you be concerned with what you could do to increase that? And even if you increase that by only 50%, so it was 30% of potential, what a return on investment that would be. So what I want to do is describe what it might look like to have an organization that really was devoted to developing and utilizing the skills of individuals. Now, this may sound difficult, but I think that when you put it together in the way that I'm going to try to present it, it isn't that challenging. It's challenging to take the first step, but I think you'll see that putting it into place is something that doesn't have to be special, it doesn't require special techniques and so on. It more requires a willingness to take the step. So let me talk about what it might look like to have a feedback positive organization. And this is where feedback is constant in the organization, where people go around being committed to helping each other improve in their competence and their performance for their own sake and for the sake of the organization. I'm not talking about performance appraisals. I think we put too much weight on performance appraisals. We expect it to do too much. And also, it's very intermittent. So when we give a performance appraisal and we say, 4 months ago at a meeting you did X, the person says, what? I mean, I don't even remember the meeting. So we hold back the feedback, which could be rich in learning. And I'm also not talking about 360s. I think 360s are important as a starting point, but it has two major problems to it. One is, even if the items are relatively specific, so the item might be, does not share relevant information with the direct reports, that still is an abstraction. No manager walks around saying, I'm going to purposely withhold information from my direct reports. We all think we share it. But if the direct reports give you that sort of feedback, the question is, what sort of information? Because you can't share everything. So it's not specific enough. And even worse, it's not face-to-face. And it carries the assumption that I can't talk directly with you. And I want to talk about the sort of organization where people will talk directly to you. It ought to be informal as well as formal. So I'm going to stress that this doesn't have to be a big deal that we sit down and let's have some feedback together. This could be something that you do sort of on the fly. You walk out of a meeting with a peer, a direct report, or your manager, and you say, that was really good about the way you presented the factual information at the beginning, but it would have been more effective if you would have shortened it this way or lengthened it that way. It's specific, it's right after the moment. That's all you have to say. It takes 30 seconds and the person hopefully hears it and may change the next time. It's on strengths as well as present limitations. The trouble when we hear the word feedback is we're pretty sure that 99% of the time it's going to be negative. So when somebody comes to you and says, I would like to give you some feedback, you know damn well it's probably going to be negative. But feedback ought to be positive as well. That is, it ought to be not, and this is really very important, it's not to make the person feel good or to smooth them over while you're about ready to give them the negative feedback. Positive feedback is around what they're doing well, they may not be fully aware of, and they might be able to use more than they do now. Also, when we give feedback, we tend to have the model that it's the gap between what you're doing wrong and adequate performance. And I would suggest that feedback is just, if not more important, in the gap between what you're doing well and how you could become even better. That again, the model you're having is that we want everybody here to be as competent as they want to be and as they can be.